subscribe now and press the bell icon. Never miss an update.
So, good afternoon to you and good afternoon to everyone who will watch this at whatever time of the day, but this is a good afternoon because we have not just a colonel, but we also have a strategist. We also have someone who analyzes and is someone who is in a position to speak with authority on military affairs and strategies. In the last few days at Indo-Analytics, we have made an attempt to get expert opinions on what the Indo-China face-off is all about. We have had the good fortune of having Lieutenant General P.S. Mehta, we had Lieutenant General Narasimhan, we had the journalistic point of view or the political point of view from Mr. Rajagopalan. He's an extremely senior journalist. That's the military and the journalistic perspective. But this is slightly unique with Colonel Rohit Dev because, by the way, I like your nickname. I love the nickname RDX. I know the reason, but I will not say it out. The entire idea behind this endeavor of Indo-Analytics was for people to understand what this entire face-off is all about. Is it about trying to put a cover on the pandemic which originated in China? Was it about a geopolitical struggle for power? Or is it just a very localized territorial dispute between two nations over their understanding of where the line is of their territory? So that was our entire concept of wanting to do this. And yes, once we do the entire series, we would be doing a complete roundtable of all the experts to understand if there is any divergent views, because till now we have kind of understood that everyone agrees that, more or less like 90%, they are in agreement of what the issue is and what the problem we face, not just domestically but internationally is, and the way forward. I am not going to ask you any question. I have given you the platform for you to explain to everyone, including me, beginning with me, because I'm just a student of history and we're just trying to learn what is the issue and what is the way forward and what is the strategic aspect of the entire face-off. Nothing happens in a vacuum. Everything has got some meaning, it's got a reason, it's planned. Even unforced errors sometimes give you very good dividends. So the platform is yours, and I'm sure people who are very eager to understand from the military strategic point of view. So it's over to you.
Now coming to the issue which is currently burning and why is it burning, and I will touch on a few aspects. And the aspects which are in the political realm, I will only nudge at it. I will not go deep into it. That's not my current domain. But the geopolitical part and military part, I will be a little more upfront.
Yes,
and if you have questions on the political part, I can answer them. There's no problem. So when you see this happening, they came, I will give example of Pagang Seo. So they used to come on a foot patrol about 2 decades back, walk till Finger 4. We used to meet them at Finger 4 and say, go back as per the protocol, banner drill, and whatever the drills are set as per the agreements of 96 and 2005. And they used to go back in 3-4 hours. Initially, it was a cordial thing. Then it started into a little bit of pushing and shoving and brawls. And the dimension it has taken this time is a little unique dimension. We also used to go to Finger 8, whether by foot or by the patrol boat and whatever, and come back. This continued. After the road was made, I'm quite sure the military realm must have given this development both in the strategic sphere, diplomatic sphere, and the political sphere of the government of the day. It can't go unnoticed. But what happened? The patrolling now continued from their side also on the road. They came in a vehicle, they went back. Today and this year, they have come and sat. And it looks they are not going back. Whether they go back before the fall of winters, or they don't go back, or they make igloo kind structures and stay for the winters, is something to be seen. So they have now come to the line of finger four, and we are short of finger four, and we are also building up our forces also, and also trying to do up our infrastructure for making the troops comfortable. I'm quite sure, given the interactions with the people concerned, the winter stocking and everything else of those posts will also be done in the right earnest, so that we are comfortable and plan for the winters itself. Similarly, when you come along the LAC, and which many readers are not able to perceive, everybody takes LAC as LC or the IB. Now I'll give you the difference. Apart from these three, there is something in the sector of the Jammu sector, which China calls as working boundary, not even IB. Okay, so IB traditionally is from the south, coming from Rajasthan, Kutch, and coming upwards, where there is a border fence from the Indian side. Any violation and crossing from there means war. It is as simple as that for a layman.
Yeah. Yes.
Coming to the working boundary, which is small stretch near Sakargarh, Bulge and beyond. So they also at times fire some artillery shells and all, and a lot of civilians die and all that. It used to be a normal thing till about 2012-13. The frequency and the tenor of that kind of a skirmish has gone to zilch, because I'm quite sure this government is more prepared. The hands are more free. And I'm quite sure if something like that happens, the retaliation towards Sialkot is going to be heavy. So that's something which I, on national television, said very loud, because Pakistan hears those voices and there should be a little caution on them. Then you come up to the LC sector. LC is line of control, is as you control. The skirmishes happen there. The LC is very adaptable. So if there is a Chinese post today and I decide to hit that Chinese post with the political will given and my military might possible, and this post is impinging on my daily routine, there's nobody stopping me to get that post and make it mine. It's open for both sides. So somewhere we are very strong, and few places the Pakistani positions are a little stronger in terms of terrain. So that scuttle will keep going on. And why is that sector on and hot always? Because of terrorist infiltration coming in from Pakistani side. So that is the only thing why it's active. Now coming to LAC. LAC you can assume as a layman to be a line, and an imaginary line running, in which China has got a perception of that line, and I have got a perception of that line. At places, the perceptions match, whether it's the McMahon line or otherwise we call it, which they have not signed. So perceptions match at places. So where they match at places, it is a line. Where it doesn't match places, then the two lines get separated by a distance. So it becomes an area. So that is why you use the term strategically, military, and even politically, that these are areas of differing perception. So let me give you an example. If you go to the easternmost theater, starting from Dharchula sector and coming to Barahoti, the watershed is a line. That side of the watershed is China, this side of the watershed is India. There's no doubt in both our minds, so we are doing that. Anybody occupies the watershed is a problem. Coming down to Barahoti, because of the watershed alignment changes, it's a bowl which is made bang on at the watershed. That bowl is a matter of contention, because in our historical and mythology, trade happened there, the Tibetans came there to Indian territory. China has got a claim there, but it's an illegal claim. So that is why we control it. So our civil administration goes there and does everything there in terms of assessment. Similarly, when you draw the line and to cut it short, come to Galwan and Pagangso. While Galwan is an imaginary line, because there is hardly a difference of 15-20 meters, by saying they came into our territory by 15 meters and India lost territory, it was surrendered, is a joke. Is a joke, because you see, when you drop a weapon and of a precision, you talk in terms of circular error of probability. So that is that if you aim at a particular point on earth, some weapon will hit 3 meters away, 10 meters away. That error is there. In navigation,
error is always there.
Yes. So in navigation, when you go with the Garmin set in your hand as a GPS, it used to have an error of 100 meters for commercial satellites and also for commercial use. So when a Colonel Shukla shows you the LAC and says they have transgressed, or when General Bakshi fights with him, he says, no, I believe my army, both should understand these are not those 3-meter military satellites. Okay, incidentally, I have a GPS which I bought in US. it gives me 3 meters, probability. And I used to take my combat group and combat team when I was young on that GPS. The most accurate thing I had on my, it was a wristwatch kind of a thing.
Yeah.
In those times, to 20 years back. So I was quite advanced in terms of technology then, militarily. So I can tell you with a lot of authority, these perceptions coming on Planet Labs and other, people who are trying to read the Earth from a satellite imagery is not accurate. So give it a
can't
ballpark.
Be accurate.
Can't be.
It cannot be accurate.
It cannot be. So give it a error of 100 meters, and then talk about whether you have surrendered or not surrendered, or captured or not captured, or were you crossed or not crossed. So as on today in Galwan, when you had this meeting after this skirmish, you also had a 200 meters kind of a pullback from both sides. So both are sitting at 200 meters. Indian Army has not closed its eyes and sitting behind and looking the other side towards Leh, that how is the weather there. They're looking at this imaginary line itself. While you are looking at the line, China has come and made one kind of a post again. Now, who is telling you that post is in the Indian side? It is in that 100 meter of error.
Yes.
If you add 100 meter of error on both sides, it's an overall error of 200 meters, which is acceptable in military terms. A politician may not understand it, commentator on TV may not understand it, but that's a given military thing. But Pagangso is a different area, and that's why I call it area of different perceptions. Why it's an area? Because there's a line coming. On the ridge, it bifurcates. One line goes towards finger 8, we say it's our line till there, and the line comes back into the ridge this side. And there's one more imaginary line which China says, okay, till that ridge, I'm okay with you. But the finger is not this, the finger is the finger number 4, and then he comes back to the same line. Yeah. So you have a piece of ground. It has got key terrain of heights of the 4 fingers. It has got valleys of the spurs of the 4 fingers, and it's got a beautiful lake. So it's like that. And China has come back, and the patrol has not gone back. It is making temporary structures. So the decision has to be taken by the Indian side. Whichever way we take the decision, given the short time we have for the winters, or are we able to cope up for the winters and plan this year, or we go back with a bang and do something next year, is a political decision. It's a diplomatic parlay which will go on with China, and it is not so easy to assume that China is going to capture any land beyond this. So it's a fair deal. Today, if India decides to go to the southeastern side of the lake and go and occupy some height, India can do it. But and that's to India's advantage. We can also say we have gone and captured, if that tantamounts to a capture in the first place. So holding of a ground in an ambiguous area, in a non-delineated area, in which the geopolity of both the countries has not drawn a line in the sand for the military to hold, will be very inaccurate to assume that we have ceded land or they have ceded land.
Yes, it's a very gray area.
Yeah. So as on date, they are at a place, we are at a place. Let's see how it goes. And you'll be so happy to learn, I will disclose to you today, not the exact numbers and figures, but the Indian Armed Forces have done a lot of things. And one of the beauties of the Indian Armed Forces and the government of the day is that they are open to ideas from common people who think. It is not, under a charade that we know it all and the decision is ours. 15th, this incident happened. 16th was the first round in the evening when the Prime Minister was speaking to, I think, chief ministers. And the Defense Minister was speaking to the military and other people concerned in the intelligence agencies. 17th morning, they were again called back by the Raksha Mantri and directions were given. So this concept of having your hands tied back is a misnomer created by people.
Created only by journalists and of a particular hue.
Anybody. You can have any shade and hue. Nobody is, even concerned in the military realm because the person on the border is not even thinking about it.
Yeah. He can't be bothered.
So it's a protocol. So now you call it Indian discipline or Chinese discipline, or you call it whatever you want to, but there was no bullet fired. So to brave for blood and say why bullet was not fired, Indian Army is weak, and I've seen our own veterans talking that how could you not fire when your CEO was killed? I don't know the situation, what actually transpired at 7:22 that night, in the evening and the late night. Nobody knows. Those stories to come out to the public domain will take time. What led to the 7 o'clock, I'm aware. But I will not even say on your show because it's something which only I am aware. So let's keep it there. So once you are aware and you know this has happened, then the only thing left to understand is that, okay, we had casualties, fine. Who's saying they didn't have casualties? I've been tweeting three
Yeah.
times plus casualties. Who has counted? Yesterday there was a report, 35, some Chinese transcript somebody has sent on Weibo, and we are running out for that. Some video we have seen on a Chengdu military region airport, and ashes coming in some boxes in China, whereas we are giving state funerals. That's a good thing, and remind me to talk about opinion shipping because that's the most important thing to happen, in coming to the future.
Yes. Yes.
So immediate need was to de-escalate first. In de-escalation, it means that you don't fire at each other, don't get into a skirmish or a brawl. That has happened. Odd brawl in Sikkim, odd brawl somewhere else will take place, but as a normal precursor to our disengagement, certain amount of de-escalation of military has happened. How is it has happened is not military in nature. It is more of a diplomatic and a geopolitical stretch which our government has been able to play. People don't understand this. They take military to be a chessboard, and people will go and kill the king and the queen, and they'll be very happy once CEO died, one that died.
Sir, the military is 2-minute Maggie noodle.
No, not exactly, because our military is
That's
more
the
hardened.
perception actually.
Yeah, there's a
Because
perception,
everyone
yeah.
thinks you send
Yes.
the
Yes.
army and everything will be resolved in
Correct.
2 hours. That doesn't.
Correct.
That's not the way the
So
world
now,
works
now,
actually.
now see the geopolity. China, Hong Kong action, South China Sea, talking to Taiwan in a hard tone, and this border skirmish in Tibet. What has India done? India has talked to Taiwan. We sent even a minister, I think somebody went from our government side, Meenakshi Lekhi, somebody went to Taiwan or something happened to that. What happened in South China Sea? Japan has made some forays into the other islands. Hong Kong, the resistance is being termed as a good resistance by the Hong Kong people. And the Chinese government is shown in poor light all over the world media,
Yes.
with a lot of
Yes.
backing from European Union and the United States and other countries as well. China tried to tell Australia that, okay, if you don't toe my line economically, I'm going to do A, B, C, D. It said, go and do whatever you want to do.
Yeah. They asked them to take a walk.
Yes. So now what's happening is, after the COVID, when you see the timeline, the pressure has only built up on China, and the trigger has been the WHO investigation. People like you, me, shaped the opinion. We wrote a lot of things. Bion News, everybody got after them.
Our mutual friend Savio
Journalists.
did a lot.
Savio did a lot, and these channels picked it up. The world media picked it up. And Donald Trump, for whatever political reason, also picked it up.
Yes.
Okay, whether he picked up ours, I'm not saying. He must have picked up the advice of Secretary Pompeo. It's good. But the same tone and tenor. And finally, what did you have? An investigation being ordered. And then immediately, the change of the baton to our minister, Dr. Harshvardhan, at the WHO. And India also siding with the investigation. Then India looking at the manufacturing units to shift to its own country because of our vocal strength on the social media. The government never said it initially. The government never talked about boycott. But that trigger that, okay, if Australia is going to pull out, US is going to pull out, Europe is going to pull out, Japan declared that I'm going to pull out manufacturing
Yes.
from there.
Yes.
And gave all these stops. And in our country, UP minister, chief minister started talking about it. All right. So the second threat was this manufacturing and the services sector will go out from me. Who will benefit? The next populous state, the youthful state is India. Even if the government takes one more year to get ease of business going and single portal kind of a documentation,
that's a process.
India will achieve it.
Itself. Yeah.
It knows it will achieve it. So, there are a lot of people like the rich people of billionaires from US. I've been on seminars with them. They talked about our ease of business not being so easy still. But you imagine if the push comes to shove and the manufacturing and services have to go out of China, even if 100 things go out, 5% kitty coming to India is a huge margin for India.
Yes.
All right. So that is the pain point. So what does China do? China says, okay, let me test you at the borders. Let me see what reaction, US gives you. Does Russia shift towards you or not, or it remains my ally because economically we are engaged more? What happens and what, military skirmish I can create only for the show value with Pakistan around you? What can I do about Nepal with you? All that he has opened in a matter of just 10 days. All that.
So in business, we call it the trial and error method.
Right.
I try something, it works out, I continue.
So, yes. So they did all that. Now see, point by point. India for the last 4 years, we had a drift initially when we heard in the media that Russia is going to train and supply arms and equipment to Pakistan. And you must have found if you go to my threads that time in Twitter, and I was actually serving. So I used to say that India needs to maintain strategic relationship with both US and
Russia.
the Russian part. Why? Because not only ethically, culturally, we are inclined towards Russia more for the past. We need systems of defense from both. India cannot rely for defense in terms of import from only one NATO backed or a Warsaw backed kind of a group. We need to have both. That is why the third front with Israel is a unique front. Currently, we have started with water and other aspects. Slowly, we come to radars and communication equipment. So these are the three fields because R&D is very rich in Israel. R&D is of a higher nature and grown into production and manufacturing in US and also Russia. It suits our gamut to keep everybody in a strategic, connect. It doesn't give less to anybody.
There is enough space for everyone.
Everybody,
we can do business with a lot of blocks.
If you remember when the Rafale came, actually Barack Obama had a heartburn. He said, why not Boeing? And why Rafale came some other day? Who was playing with it? Because there's a lot of media reports of people.
That's a discussion for another day.
So some other day. No. I've got a lot of evidences. I've told a lot of media people to search those bites of visit of President Sarkozy and his wife, the lady who went to meet our opposition leader. So it's a good video. If you get hold of it, I'll come to that point little later sometime.
Yeah.
So coming back to China here. So it did these 3-4 things together, and it thought to assess. And it played its cards well with full preparation of the military escalation on the escalation ladder. Now the problem with China is it needs a face saver. And I have said this upfront. People are coming to this term as of yesterday in the media. I said this a month ago. Since they have come in, and now this Galwan has happened. What has Galwan done to China? It has put the morale of the PLA not in the boots probably, but it's given them enough things to think about.
It's given them a reality check. It's given them a reality check.
Outnumbered patrol, going into your pre-planned ambush in which you have your SF-like people sitting there initially. You heard of change of guard, that post had new faces and all, and they went. And then getting thrashed. We had casualties. Obviously, people fell into the river and a lot of casualties happened there like that. It's okay. But that is a message is gone. And such like messages, and the end result of the message is the dead bodies being given a state funeral in India and they are arriving in a box in China. This entire spectrum is something which the media should play up. We as citizens should play up in opinion shaping of our nation and try to create a rift in the Chinese thinking. It's very important. If you want to bring down, if Russia could be brought down by American influence and their doing, I'm quite sure China has got enough adversaries to take care of it from the outside.
They have enemies all over. They don't have a friendly neighbor anywhere.
Correct. So it's easy to do that. And why? Because in the economic realm, when China sends its own citizen across the world, that Huawei person is caught in Canada, is not leaving him, Justin Trudeau is not leaving him still. And they have tried to, negotiate with Canadian hostages here in China. So they send these Chinese ambassadors, they send these Chinese industrialists, the money bags out in the world to go and buy for China. Most of them have not returned to China. Some of them are on the payroll of China. Some have defected and some are still working for China, but with the money of China, but staying abroad now. And now they're going back. It will be a suspect because all these governments will, kill their cash, kill their reserves, and make them bleed. So once that happens, these are the same people who are on Chinese apps. So if we percolate a message around the world on a theme, and if the world resonates with that message, these Chinese, so-called technical, industrial, whatever financial, ambassadors they have all across the world, will relate back to their own families, kith and kin and friends back in China. And that is how you will be able to get the dragon on its knees. The dragon has to be addressed at the geopolitical level to weaken its political might to fight. So moment you do that, economically, getting him down, militarily is the last issue to happen. Because if the people are convinced that war is a futile effort hereafter, they will not fight in the way China thinks. So the aim should be, the Tiananmen Square images should
psychological warfare is something where we can
Yes.
if we apply our minds to it.
Yes.
We are experts at it. You
Yes.
know,
Correct. Chanakya was actually that kind of a strategist.
that's exactly
So
what. Yeah, that's
Sundu was more
exactly
of a
what. You know,
tactician playing at the lower level. So you don't decide.
we have enough knowledge of psychological warfare.
True.
The thing is that it's time it gets implemented, and
Yeah.
opinion shaping across the globe uh,
Yes.
is not impossible or difficult. It just needs
It is.
that
It is.
willpower, and
It
it
is very,
needs
very, very much possible,
it is
Bharatji.
to be
You can
persistently
tag
done. You
on
know.
Twitter anybody as Bharat, or I can tag
Yeah, yeah,
tag as
yeah, yeah,
Rohit.
yeah. You know,
You
we
know,
tagged
and
the POTUS. We tagged the
yeah.
we
So if we can tag, I'm quite sure our Minister of External
anyone
Affairs has
can.
gone far beyond reach, and the
Yeah, yeah.
kind of bonhomie between Secretary Pompeo and Dr. Jaishankar is huge.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
understands China and Pakistan in a similar vein as Pompeo understands, so they can share
Yes.
notes. So coming back to the military part, which I was alluding to,
Yes.
so the first thing was de-escalate. The second part was to strive for a status quo. I will not say anti, because a lot of our people, bought this bullet initially to say it is status quo anti. There's nothing called anti. Anti is when you have that mob differential in your own favor. What is mob differential for the layman to understand? Mobilization differential is the difference between time taken for PLA to come from mainland to the LAC
Yes.
vis-a-vis time taken by the Indian armed forces to go from our mainland to the LAC. China has that advantage of mob differential. As long as it has that, even if you disengage by 10 kilometers today, it still can come back in September.
Yeah.
Unless you are careful, unless you have so many boots on ground as reserves to be made available. But slowly, this is the summer season. Now, understand this, Bharat. Why didn't we fight the war in 71 in summers? Indira Gandhi wanted it. There are huge preparation issues required and logistic sustenance. So, winter suits us. No more requirement of so much of water and other ancillaries to go with your systems to fight a battle. So, per se, in summers, the Chinese front should be more active. In the winter months, the Pakistani side should be more active because here the snow is frozen, China can't do much. So somebody like Praveen Sani who keeps bragging about a two-front war and then we add a 2.5. So,
that's
you should
absolute
understand
nonsense.
it is not possible. It is not possible.
Subscribe now and press the bell icon. Never miss an update.